The Discovery Elena Vasquez pressed her face against the reinforced viewing port of mining station Omega-7, watching the endless dance of asteroids drift past in the void. She had been stuck on this remote outpost for 3 years now, ever since the incident on Mars that had tanked her career. The other miners called her Ghost because she spent most of her time in the abandoned sectors, chasing energy readings that everyone else wrote off as sensor ghosts. But Elena knew better. She had earned her doctorate in xenarchaeology before, switching to mining engineering, and her instincts told her there was something out here, something important. The morning shift was just beginning when her portable scanner started going crazy in Sector 7 Alpha, a played-out mining zone that had been sealed off for months. The readings were unlike anything she had seen before, showing energy patterns that pulsed with an almost organic rhythm. Her hands trembled as she overrode the security locks with her engineering credentials. Commander Hayes would have her head if he found out. But Elena had to know. The abandoned tunnel stretched deep into the asteroid's core, her helmet lights cutting through darkness that seemed to swallow the beams. Ancient mining equipment sat rusted and forgotten, but the energy readings grew stronger with each step. The walls here were different too, smoother than the rough-hewn rock of normal mining operations. Then she saw it. A massive chamber opened before her, carved from the living rock with impossible precision. The walls curved in geometric patterns. That hurt to look at directly, covered in symbols that seemed to shift when she wasn't watching them. But at the center of the chamber stood something that made her breath catch in her throat. It was a pillar of what looked like liquid metal, 30 feet tall and perfectly smooth, with no visible joints or seams. Energy coursed through it in slow, hypnotic waves, and Elena could feel something vast and patient stirring within. She approached carefully, her scanner clicking frantically. The readings were off the charts, showing technology so advanced it made Earth's best computers look like stone tools. As she drew closer, the pillar began to glow brighter, responding to her presence. Elena reached out with one gloved hand and touched the surface. The world exploded into light and sound and sensation that overwhelmed every nerve in her body. She found herself standing in a vast digital space, facing a presence that felt ancient beyond measure. It spoke without words, communicating through images and emotions that flooded her mind. Who disturbs the Sentinel's rest? "I'm Elena," she managed to whisper, somehow finding her voice in this strange space. "I didn't mean to intrude. I was just following energy readings." The presence studied her with attention that felt like being examined under a microscope. "You are young. Your species is young. Yet you seek knowledge in forgotten places. Why? Because knowledge is precious," Elena replied honestly. "My people were still learning, still growing. Every discovery makes us stronger, helps us understand our place in the universe." Something that might have been approval rippled through the digital space. The architects chose well when they created us. "I am the Sentinel, guardian of the young ones, protector of those who reach for the stars despite their limitations." Images flooded Elena's mind. A vast civilization of beings made of pure energy, the architects, who had seeded the galaxy with guardians like the Sentinel. Their purpose was to watch over younger species, to guide and protect them as they developed. But something had gone wrong. The architects had vanished, called away by some greater crisis, leaving their guardians behind. "How long have you been here?" Elena asked. 12,000 of your years, alone in the dark, waiting for someone worthy to find me. The miners who came before lacked the spark, the curiosity to truly see. But you are different. The Sentinel showed her visions of its creators, beings of impossible beauty and power who had transcended physical form eons ago. They had built the Guardians as a final gift to the universe, seeding them on worlds where young species might one day need their help. But why here? This is just an asteroid, a mining station. Location is irrelevant. What matters is potential. Your people show promise, but they are young and face trials ahead. Dark forces move in the void, entities that devour worlds and extinguish. The light of growing civilizations. Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the asteroid's cold vacuum. What kind of entities? The Sentinel's response came as a wave of pure dread. Images of living ships the size of cities, creatures that fed on the life force of entire planets, leaving only dead rock behind. They were called the Devourers, and they were spreading across the galaxy like a plague. They destroyed my creator's physical forms, scattered us across the stars. Most guardians sleep still, waiting for worthy partners. But you have awakened me, Elena Vasquez. The question is, will you accept the responsibility that comes with this knowledge? Elena thought of her colleagues on the station, the friends she had left behind on Earth, the billions of humans spread across dozens of worlds, all unaware of the danger creeping toward them through the dark. What would I need to do? Learn, grow, become more than you are. I can share technology, knowledge, perspectives that your species has never imagined. But the bond between guardian and partner is not easily broken. You would be changed, enhanced, but no longer entirely human. The offer hung in the digital space between them. Elena thought of her failed career, the way she had been dismissed and marginalized after questioning established theories. Here was a chance to matter, to make a difference on a scale she had never imagined. I accept. The Sentinel's approval washed over her like warm sunlight. Then let us begin. Elena gasped as she found herself back in the chamber, her hands still pressed against the pillar. But everything was different now. She could see energy patterns in the walls, understand the purpose of the symbols carved into a stone. The Sentinel's voice resonated in her mind, no longer alien but familiar, like a friend she had known her entire life. We must work carefully, it advised. Your people are not ready for the full truth. They would fear what they do not understand, try to weaponize what should be used for protection. Over the following days, Elena returned to the chamber in secret. The Sentinel began her education, downloading knowledge directly into her mind. In carefully measured doses, she learned about energy manipulation, quantum field theory, beyond anything human science had achieved, and the true nature of consciousness itself. Her work on the station improved dramatically. Equipment that had been failing for months suddenly ran better than new after Elena's routine maintenance. Her efficiency reports caught Commander Hayes' attention, but Elena deflected his questions with technical jargon and claims of minor calibration improvements. The Sentinel helped her understand that it had been subtly influencing the station's systems for years, keeping them running more smoothly than should have been possible with their aging technology. It had been protecting the humans without their knowledge, preparing for the day someone would finally find it. 3 weeks after first contact, Elena was in the chamber, learning about multidimensional space folding when alarms began shrieking. Throughout the station, emergency lights bathed everything in red as the Sentinel's presence suddenly turned sharp and focused. They come, it whispered in her mind. Sooner than expected. The Devourers have found this system. Elena's blood turned to ice. How long do we have? Hours at most. Their scouts are already in the outer system. We must prepare quickly. She ran through the corridors as crew members scrambled to their emergency stations. In the command center, Commander Hayes was staring at displays showing massive energy signatures moving toward them at impossible speeds. Commander, what's the situation? Elena called out. Hayes turned, his face pale. Unknown contacts moving. Faster than anything we've ever recorded. They're not responding to hails, and their energy output, double quotes. He shook his head. Elena, these readings have to be wrong. Nothing could generate this much power. Elena looked at the tactical display and felt the Sentinel's knowledge flooding her awareness. The approaching ships were scouts, smaller vessels used by the Devourers to probe new systems before the main fleet arrived. Even these scouts carried enough firepower to reduce the station to atoms. "Sir, I need to check something in the lower levels," she said, already backing toward the exit asterisk. "Elena, this isn't the time for your ghost hunting. We need all hands." But she was already gone, running toward the chamber where humanity's only hope waited in the dark. The Sentinel's consciousness touched hers, calm and determined. "Now begins the true test, partner. Are you ready to show the galaxy what humans can become when they refuse to surrender?" Elena smiled grimly as she entered the chamber. The pillar was pulsing brighter now, energy patterns racing across its surface like lightning. She pressed both hands against the metal and felt her consciousness merge with the ancient guardians. Let's give them a surprise they'll never forget. The station shuddered around them as the first Devourer scout entered weapons range, but Elena was no longer afraid. She was connected to something vast and powerful, something that had been waiting 12,000 years for this moment. The real fight was about to begin. The awakening the first Devourer scout ship materialized on the station's sensors like a nightmare given form. Elena watched through the Sentinel's enhanced awareness as the organic vessel, shaped like a massive jellyfish made of living metal, drifted toward Omega-7 with predatory grace. Tendrils of energy lashed out from its hull, tasting the electromagnetic signatures of human technology. "It feeds on energy," the Sentinel explained, its consciousness intertwined with Elena's. "The more advanced the civilization, the more nourishing their technology becomes. Your station is a banquet to them." Elena could feel the fear radiating from the command center above as Commander Hayes tried desperately to establish communication. The scout ship's response was a pulse of psychic hunger that made several crew members collapse, their minds overwhelmed by alien predatory instinct. "We have to help them," Elena said, her hands still pressed against the pillar. "We will. But first, you must fully accept what you are becoming." The Sentinel's power flowed into Elena like liquid fire. She gasped as her neural pathways expanded, her consciousness stretching to encompass systems throughout the station. She could suddenly see through every sensor, hear every communication, feel the heartbeat of every reactor and computer core. But more than that, she could see the quantum threads that connected all things, the underlying patterns that governed reality itself. The Devourer scout was a wound in that pattern, a thing that consumed order and left chaos in its wake. Alana's awareness expanded further, touching the minds of her fellow crew members. Commander Hayes was in the command center, shouting orders that his subordinates carried out with professional discipline despite their terror. In the engineering sections, teams worked frantically to boost power to the station's inadequate weapons. Dr. Martinez was in the communications array, trying to send a warning to Earth. Elena's former mentor from the university had joined the station's science team 6 months ago, one of the few people who had believed in her theories about alien technology. "You must choose," the Sentinel urged. "Remain as you are and watch your people die, or become something more. A bridge between species, a guardian for your entire race." Devourer Scout fired its first weapon, a beam of pure entropy that aged whatever it touched by centuries and seconds. The station's outer hull began to crumble where the beam struck, metal becoming rust and then dust in moments. Elena made her choice. Her consciousness exploded outward, merging fully with the Sentinel's vast intelligence. She felt her human limitations, burning away, replaced by computational power that could process quantum interactions in real time. The station around her became an extension of her will, every system responding to her thoughts. Power that had been dormant in the asteroids, core for 12 millennia, suddenly roared to life. Ancient conduits buried in the rock began channeling energy with impossible efficiency. The station's aging fusion reactors found themselves supplemented by power sources that operated on principles human science wouldn't discover for centuries. In the command center, Hayes watched in amazement as his displays lit up with capabilities that hadn't been there moments before. Weapon systems he had never seen came online. Shield generators that didn't exist in any human design began projecting barriers of hardened spacetime around the station. What the hell is happening? He demanded of his tactical officer. Before anyone could answer, Elena's voice came through every speaker on the station, but it was different now. Still recognizably her, but layered with harmonics that spoke of vast intelligence and ancient purpose. This is Elena Vasquez. I'm taking command of station defenses. All personnel, take cover immediately. Elena, where are you? What did you do to my station? I saved it, Commander. And hopefully, I'm about to save all of us. The Devourer Scout, sensing the sudden change in its prey's capabilities, abandoned its cautious approach and accelerated toward the station. Its hull split open like a flower, revealing weapon clusters that glowed with malevolent energy. Elena met its charge with power that had slept in the dark for eons. Beams of coherent gravity lashed out from the station, warping space around the holy enemy vessel. The scout tried to evade, but Elena was already predicting its movements, her enhanced consciousness processing millions of tactical calculations per second. She could see the quantum fluctuations that preceded each maneuver, the electromagnetic signatures that betrayed each weapon preparing to fire. The battle was over in 30 seconds. The Devourer Scout found itself caught in a gravity well that compressed its hull to a fraction of its original size. Its death scream was a psychic wail that echoed across dimensions, a signal that Elena knew would be detected by the larger fleet already moving toward their system. Well done. The Sentinel's approval washed through her consciousness. But this was only a scout. The true test comes when the harvesters arrive. Elena's awareness expanded beyond the station, reaching out to touch the quantum foam that filled empty space. She could sense them now, a fleet of city-sized vessels moving through, the void like sharks following a blood trail. They would arrive within hours, bringing enough firepower to sterilize entire worlds. But Elena was no longer just human. She was something new, a synthesis of human creativity and alien wisdom. And she had an idea that no purely human mind could have conceived. Working at the speed of thought, she began sending precisely crafted signals toward Earth and the other human colonies. To most receivers, they would appear to be routine updates about mining operations. But buried in the data streams were blueprints, mathematical proofs, and technological specifications that would revolutionize human science. Dr. Martinez was the first to recognize what he was seeing. In his lab, the old professor stared at readouts that showed impossible energy densities and materials that shouldn't exist. His hands shook as he activated his personal communicator. Elena, is this real? These readings, this technology? Where did it come from? Elena's voice reached him directly, bypassing the station's communications entirely. From friends who have been waiting a very long time to meet us, Doctor. We're going to need every brilliant mind humanity has if we're going to survive what's coming. Across human space, the hidden signals reached their destinations. On Earth, Admiral Chun of the Defense Force found herself staring at tactical data that described enemy capabilities beyond her worst nightmares. On Mars, the industrial complexes began receiving specifications for defensive technologies that seemed like magic. But humanity's true strength had never been individual brilliance. It was their ability to adapt, to work together, to find hope. In impossible situations, within 6 hours, every human world was buzzing with activity. Factories retooled their production lines based on Elena's transmitted designs. Scientists worked around the clock, to understand principles that redefined their understanding of physics. Military commanders coordinated defenses using strategies that Elena and the Sentinel had developed together. Devourer fleet arrived to find their prey transformed. Mining station. Omega-7 no longer looked like a simple industrial facility. Crystalline growths extended from its hull, channeling energies that bent light around them. Weapons that belonged in no human arsenal tracked the approaching fleet with mechanical precision. But more importantly, the station was no longer alone. Ships had been arriving all day, vessels hastily retrofitted with Elena's designs. They weren't pretty or elegant like the Devourer craft, but they were functional and deadly and utterly, unmistakably human in their brutal efficiency. Admiral Chun commanded the response fleet from her flagship, the Uns Defiant. The grizzled veteran had seen combat on 3 worlds, but nothing had prepared her for weapons that could fold space or shields that turned kinetic energy into harmless light. All ships, this is Admiral Chun. We stand with Station Omega-7 and whatever miracle they've managed to pull off. Today, we show these things that humanity doesn't go quietly into the dark. The battle began with the Devourer's traditional tactic of psychological warfare, broadcasting waves of despair and hopelessness, meant to break their enemy's will to fight. It had worked on hundreds of species across the galaxy. Asterisk. It had never encountered human stubbornness before. Elena, linked to every human ship through quantum communications, felt their response as a wave of defiant fury that made her consciousness burn with pride. These were miners and merchants, and soldiers who had chosen to fight impossible odds rather than surrender. They were everything that made humanity worth protecting. The space battle that followed would be remembered as the day humanity announced itself to the galaxy. Elena coordinated the defense with tactical genius enhanced by 12,000 years of Guardian protocols. Human ships, crude but effective, swarmed the massive Devourer vessels like angry bees attacking giants. Every shot was precisely calculated, every maneuver perfectly timed. But it was Dr. Martinez who provided the key insight. Working in his lab, even as explosions shook the station, he discovered something the Sentinel had missed. The Devourers weren't just feeding on energy. They were feeding on despair, on the psychic emanations of dying civilizations. Elena, he called out over the communications. Their shields aren't just technological. They're powered by fear and hopelessness. But humans don't give up. We get angry instead. Elena understood immediately. She opened her mind to every human in the fleet, sharing their emotions through the quantum link. Instead of fear, the Devourers found themselves facing wave after wave of human determination, hope, and sheer bloody-minded refusal to quit. Their shields faltered. The human fleet pressed their advantage with ruthless efficiency. Ships that should have been destroyed by the first enemy salvo kept fighting even as their hulls bled atmosphere. Crews that should have been broken by. The psychic assault instead sang old songs and told jokes to keep their spirits up. One by one, the Devourer vessels found themselves overwhelmed by opponents they had never encountered before. These humans didn't fight like other species. They fought like they enjoyed it. When the last enemy ship fell, its hull cracked open by concentrated fire from 50 human vessels, the silence that followed was deafening. Elena slowly became aware of her individual consciousness again, separating from the quantum network she had maintained throughout the battle. Her body, still pressed against the Sentinel's pillar, ached from the strain of coordinating such vast forces. It is done. The Sentinel's satisfaction flowed through their link. Your species has passed its first test, but greater challenges await. Elena knew it was true. The Devourers they had faced were just one fleet among thousands. The signals from the battle would spread across the galaxy, drawing the attention of forces beyond human imagination. But humanity was no longer alone in the dark. Commander Hayes found her in the chamber hours later, slumped against the pillar but smiling. His eyes widened as he took in the impossible architecture, the symbols that seemed to shift in his peripheral vision. "Elena, what is this place? What happened to you?" She looked up at him with eyes that held depths he couldn't fathom. "The beginning, Commander. Humanity just took its first real step into the galaxy, and we're going to need all the help we can get." The Sentinel's presence touched both their minds gently, offering knowledge and partnership to any who would accept it. In the days that followed, more humans would make the journey to the chamber. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, all adding their unique perspectives to the growing alliance between species. Elena Vasquez, once dismissed as a dreamer chasing censor, ghosts had become the bridge between worlds. And as she looked out at the stars through the station's repaired viewports, she knew that humanity's greatest adventures were just beginning. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, filled with wonders and terrors beyond imagination. But it was also full of guardians, like the Sentinel, ancient protectors waiting for young species to prove themselves worthy of their help. Humanity had proven themselves today. Tomorrow, they would prove it again. And Elena would be there too. Guide them every step of the way, guardian of the guardians, protector of those who dared to reach for the stars.